My name is Sarah, and I'm 61. For the past several years, I've lived alone in a quiet home tucked away in Northern Virginia. My children are grown and busy with their lives on opposite sides of the country. My days are soft and predictable, tea in the mornings, books in the evenings, silence filling the spaces between. I truly believed I had found peace in this solitude. That was, until last weekend. The rain hadn't stopped all day when Mark arrived. He used to be close with my late husband, David. They went back to their college years. It had been over 10 years since I last saw him, and aside from the occasional holiday card or birthday message, we'd fallen out of touch. So when he called saying he'd be driving through and wanted to meet, I didn't hesitate. I suggested we catch up over coffee, something simple. But he asked if he could stay the night. Apparently, all the hotels nearby were full because of some wine event. I paused, unsure, but then gave in. I had a clean guest room and, after all, he was just an old friend. When he walked through the door, he brought the scent of rain with him, and something else I couldn't quite place. He was older now, with streaks of silver in his hair and beard, but that familiar, easy smile was still there. We stood awkwardly at first, years of silence sitting between us. But as we moved into the kitchen and started talking, the distance slowly faded. I brewed tea while he added a splash of whiskey to his. We talked for hours under the soft light, about my kids, his retirement, the places he'd visited. There was no rush, no need to impress, just a slow, meaningful exchange I hadn't realized I missed so much. At one moment, he reached over and gently tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. His touch lingered. I felt warmth rush through me, surprising and familiar all at once. I didn't flinch or lean in, I just looked at him. It felt like a question hanging in the air, one neither of us was ready to answer. So, it passed without words. Later that night, I showed him to the guest room. It was ready, clean sheets, soft lighting, a view of the garden. He thanked me with a smile that seemed to say more than his words. I said goodnight, then closed my door behind me and just stood there for a moment, my hand still resting on the knob. My heart beat faster than it had in a long time, as if waking up after years of quiet. Something woke me in the middle of the night, though I couldn't say what exactly. Maybe it was the tapping of tree branches against the window or just the quiet awareness of someone else under my roof. I reached for the glass of water on my nightstand but paused, hearing footsteps in the hall. They weren't rushed or sneaky, just slow, deliberate steps. Curious, I got out of bed and opened my door. The hallway was dark, except for a soft flicker of light under the guest room door. Candlelight. My heartbeat picked up as I walked across the cool floor and gently pushed the door open. Mark was sitting at the edge of the bed, lit only by a candle that cast gentle shadows across the room. When he saw me, he looked surprised, but then his face softened. He said he couldn't sleep, too many thoughts running through his head. I asked if he was okay, my voice low, unsure why I was even in there instead of going back to bed. He said being here brought memories, of David, of the past, of me, and how those things used to feel. I didn't answer, just stood there, the candlelight moving across the walls in his face. He apologized for earlier, saying he didn't mean to make me uncomfortable when he touched my hair. I stepped closer, quietly telling him he hadn't. He looked up at me then, and in his eyes, I saw something gentle and tired, but real, something I hadn't felt in a long time. And standing there in my old robe, hair down, feet bare, I realized I wasn't scared or uncertain. I just didn't know what came next. Then he reached out and touched my hand, softly, like he was asking a question without words. Everything I thought I knew about being alone, about being content with it, shifted in that moment. I didn't pull away. His thumb brushed the back of my hand, his warmth grounding me. Neither of us spoke. The candle flickered between us, making the room feel suspended in time. No past, no future, just this shared silence and something quietly building between us. His hand held mine with care, not demanding, just steady and real. There was no rush between us, only quiet closeness. After a while, I leaned my head against his shoulder, and he rested his cheek softly against my hair. I let my eyes close. In that quiet moment, I didn't feel like someone searching for something missing. I wasn't trying to fill a space or chase a memory. I just felt like myself, calm, safe, and alive in a way I hadn't in a long time. We stayed like that for a while, not speaking, not needing to. The stillness between us wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. When I finally stood up, he did too. He walked with me to the hallway. Before I turned toward my room, he reached for my hand again. His voice was low when he said, "Thank you for letting me in tonight," and I understood he meant more than the house. I gave his hand a soft squeeze and smiled, then turned and walked away. That night, I didn't fall asleep to the quiet ache of being alone. I drifted off with the sound of his voice in my mind, the way it had softened when he said my name, and for once, the silence around me felt full instead of empty. Later that day, I found myself flipping through an old photo album I hadn't opened in years. The pages held images of David, of our children when they were small, and of a younger version of me I barely recognized. As I looked through the memories, a wave of feeling washed over me. But it wasn't painful, it was warm, familiar, deeply human. Mark came to stand beside me, placing a hand gently on my back. He didn't say anything or try to fix what I was feeling. He was just there. That quiet presence settled me. I turned and smiled at him through tears I hadn't expected. "This house has held so much," I whispered. "Joy, loss, love. I didn't think there was room for anything new." "There always is," he said softly. "Sometimes we just need to open the door again." And deep down, I knew I had already begun to. That evening, we sat out on the porch as the sun dipped low, stretching long golden light across the yard. The air was calm, the birds had quieted, and the peace of twilight settled around us like a soft blanket. I brought out 2 glasses of wine, one red, one white. He smiled as I handed him his, and we touched our glasses together gently. We didn't speak right away. We didn't need to. The silence between us was full, not of emptiness, but of quiet understanding. "I used to sit out here and watch the sunset by myself," I said, eyes scanning the treetops. "Sometimes I'd talk to David, not out loud, but in my heart. I'd tell him about my day, the garden, little things I wished he could have seen." Mark turned toward me, his gaze steady and kind. "Do you still?" he asked. I nodded. "Sometimes. But less and less lately." He didn't push. He simply took my hand and held it gently. After a while, he spoke again, his voice low. "I don't want to rush anything. I don't need answers right now. But I want you to know, I've felt more like myself these past 2 days than I have in a long time." I turned to look at him, wondering if I'd see hesitation or doubt. I didn't. His face was open, sincere. I smiled, just a little. "You don't make me feel younger, Mark," I said softly. "You make me feel real." And I didn't realize how much I missed that. He leaned in slowly, carefully, giving me every chance to step back. But I didn't. Our lips met in a kiss that was gentle and honest. It wasn't rushed or full of promises, it simply said, "I see you. I'm here." When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. We both laughed quietly, not from nervousness but from something deeper, a sense of something old letting go, and something new quietly beginning. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, we slowly made our way back inside. I offered him the guest room again, though something quiet passed between us. It wasn't spoken out loud, but it was there, a question, not a demand. He stood in the hallway, looking at the door, then turned to me and asked, "Where would you like me tonight?" I didn't answer right away, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to honor what the moment meant. Then I simply said, "Come with me." That night wasn't rushed. We didn't just remove clothing, we let go of the weight we'd both been carrying. Years of loneliness, silence, and guarded hearts. We shared stories, held each other, and fell asleep wrapped in something soft and new. It wasn't about trying to prove anything. There was no pressure, no script, just honest connection, quiet curiosity, and the kind of closeness that only comes from being fully seen and still accepted. We moved slowly, exploring with care, guided by trust and understanding, not urgency. In that quiet intimacy, I learned something I hadn't expected, that tenderness and desire don't fade with time. They evolve, they deepen. And that kind of connection, the kind built on presence and respect, is beautiful at any age. The next morning, he made breakfast, just simple eggs and toast, but I watched him from the doorway, still wrapped in my robe, feeling something unfamiliar and warm in my chest. I hadn't expected this, not now, not at this point in my life. But maybe that's the beauty of it. Love doesn't always arrive on time. Sometimes it comes back around, sometimes it waits quietly, and sometimes it knocks on your door in the middle of a rainstorm and asks to stay the night. He left 2 days later, but not without a plan to return. We didn't label what we were, didn't try to define it. We just made a promise, not to close the door again. And I haven't, not to him, not to myself, not anymore. Thank you so much for watching and sharing in Sarah's story. If this touched something in you, if you've ever believed it was too late for connection, too late to feel alive again, remember, it never is. If you want more stories about second chances, unexpected love, and the quiet bravery of opening your heart again, please subscribe to Broken Vows. Your support means everything. Until next time.